So far this year, I've been putting off the garden, but at this point, I just need to get on with it. Hey, it's Kate. I hope you're having a great day. What's in the garden today is vegetable garden prep, including rebuilding the old vegetable garden arbor, clearing some weeds, and hopefully a bit of planting too. So this is the old garden arbor that I built a few years ago. And the obvious comment, of course, is that's not really a proper garden arbor. And you're right, I never built it to be a proper garden arbor. It was intended to be more of a playhouse for my daughter. She never took to it though. However, she has enjoyed the water here. We'll definitely be keeping that. And for the arbor, I'll be extending its legs so it can gain the height to be a full-size garden arbor. I just need to get it out of here.
Fortunately, the arbor only had a couple screws holding it into the raised bed, so it was actually pretty easy to remove. And I got it over to the lawn where I'd already wishfully laid out the tools I thought I'd need. Step one was double checking all my measurements to make sure my plan would work, and clean up the existing arbor to get all the legs to the same length. Then I can start adding the new material and extend the legs. My plan was 4 2x2s, one for each leg, and then 2 more as cross pieces, one on each side. So I needed 6 of these cedar 2x2 balusters. And of course, once I started cutting them, I found that one of the pieces had a huge crack in it, which was of course disappointing. Honestly, I should have returned it on principle, but it seemed like too much of a hassle, even though I needed to go back for a replacement anyways. So I got the legs cut and then I moved on to the wire mesh. And this is galvanized steel wire mesh from the concrete section. It's what I used originally with this arbor, which is 4 years old now and only has some surface rust. So I'd say it's held up pretty well. Otherwise, a coat of paint would help protect it. What I do like about this mesh is that it's quite strong, so there's no worry about damaging it from heavy crops, high winds, or even pulling the plants off at the end of the season. The downside of it is my previous choices. Personally, I'm pretty happy with the way the arbor looked when I first finished it, but I'll tell you, this is not a good way to build an arbor. It seemed like a good idea that would be pretty strong, reliable, and a clean design, but it was both a pain to put together and extra work. The pitfall was, to get this strong, reliable, clean design, I decided to remove the exterior edge of the mesh so that I could insert each wire into a drilled hole in the 2x2 frame. So I had to drill each of these holes in the proper placement to the proper depth, and then while assembling the frame, I also had to align each wire piece to its own hole all at the same time on multiple sides. It was a pain. Don't do this. Oh, and as well, you can't cut this stuff with regular wire cutters. You either need some type of bolt cutter things like this or a power tool like a grinder. So anyways, once the mesh was prepared, the last prep was the 2x2 cross pieces and some 1x2 mending pieces. I cut the 1x2s on the miter saw so I could get 45-degree angles easily, and then finally I cut the cross pieces. Of course, the first side was a struggle of figuring out what order to do things in, but by the time I got to the second side, it went much smoother. So the second side, I started by assembling the wire mesh, the cross pieces, and then the 1x2 mending pieces. Now, with that mesh assembly together, I could attach that to the actual frame, which still ended up being a pain. Once I marked and drilled the wire holes in the original arbor legs, I had to pry it open to allow the mesh in. At that point, I could screw the mending pieces to the old legs and continue on to the new legs. So for these new legs, I had this idea to minimize the ground contact of the wood to the soil. So I picked up these epoxy-coated rebar pieces. They came at about the right length. They're 24 inches long, which might be a bit longer than I need. I drilled a deep hole in the bottom of the legs and hammered in the rebar using scrap wood to protect the epoxy coating from the hammer. So now the only thing left is to attach these legs to the arbor. So mark and drill the wire holes, align and screw it together with the mending pieces.
Almost there. Okay, and then screw the first leg on. Align those ones. Okay, no, it's coming off. Oh, the other leg's coming off. No, you're making it worse. Okay, hold that still.
Yeah, don't do it this way. And then I added a few more screws at the shoulders of the original structure for added strength. So the next day after some rain, I came back out to get the arbor installed and finish the project. Of course, first I needed to clear some room in the arbor, and then I measured to make sure I'd cleared enough room. I got the arbor pretty close to the beds and then decided there was no way I was getting it into the beds by myself without breaking it. So I got Hubs out to help for a moment and we got it close to the right place. And by the way, I really wanted to move the arbor here because I thought it would look really cute as an entrance to the garden. And as well, I wanted to separate it from the other trellis in the rear garden bed, which would give me more planting options for trellising plants and better access to those rear beds. So anyways, I thought this part would be relatively easy, but I ended up spending most of 2 hours getting this arbor into place. I was having trouble aligning the legs, which I thought was the reason the arbor kept looking askew, but I finally realized it was actually because the legs weren't at equal depths, which was another problem. It seemed like I had hit rocks or something with the two legs, so I ended up digging holes under them. It turned out to just be hard clay, presumably undisturbed native soil. I also realized it was taller than I was expecting. I think my measurements were thrown off because of the peak at the center. I didn't know how to account for that. After all this, my solution was just press the legs in evenly and as far as I could and hope for the best. Now the finishing touches of this project. Move the water basin to the other side. So again, getting the weeds out of the way, then empty the basin, clean it, and reposition it on the other side where I can refill it and mount the solar panel at the top of the other trellis. And the very last thing is to get a few starts planted that I picked out at the local nursery. I've got a couple cucumbers and a bundle of scarlet runner beans. The cucumbers are both long English types, they went in easy, and the runner beans, I was able to partially break them apart so they would be in a row instead of all in one bundle. And I left a bit of space in front of both of these to add a few seeds later to make sure we have a continuous harvest.
I love the way that this has come together. I think it's going to be a great improvement for the layout of the garden this year. And I know it looks pretty rough still, but at this point, I think the garden is now ready to be gardened, which will be the next step, once I get these weeds out of here, that is. Thanks for coming along with me today. There's still lots to do, so make sure you're subscribed so you can catch the next episode. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.